Good morning. Welcome back to the Happy Homestead. I'm Amanda. Today is Thursday, August 24th. We're going to jump right on into the challenge and today's project. I actually wanted to show you the freeze-dried herbs though. They ran for about 20 hours. I think about 2.5 hours, maybe 3 hours of that 20 was the freezing and then the vacuuming of the moisture out. The rest of it was the dry time. A majority of the time when you run a Harvest Right freeze dryer is the drying, making sure everything is fully dry. First it freezes, then it vacuums the moisture out, and then it dries it. And so this is the basil. This is all of the basil, what was it, 3.5 trays worth. And it's still so beautiful. I put it in the jar this morning. It smelled amazing. And then this is the parsley. This is not all the parsley because some of this is some that I had done previously. But this is my parsley, basil, sage, chives. I have chives still going in the garden, hoping I can get some more chives. My sage, unfortunately, totally just burned up and died in the heat. For it did. I harvested and freeze-dried what I could. And I just vacuum sealed this lid on. I got this kind of like handheld thing to vacuum it on. I'll show that another time when I actually can use it. I wanted to use it today and make sure it works well. But the herbs are done. They are going to be stored just like this and keep the vacuum lid on until I need them. So on to today's projects. The other day I was watching Becky from Acre Homestead make a tomato pie. And then I saw Meg from the Holler Homestead make a tomato pie a week or two ago. Sorry, my eyes are watering. I have never made a tomato pie. I don't even think I've eaten a tomato pie. But after seeing it a couple of times, it sounds pretty good. And so I don't have enough ripe tomatoes right now. I've got a lot of green ones, but I don't have enough ripe ones to make a tomato pie yet, but I plan on doing that, and I'm going to be using Becky's recipe pretty soon. As soon as some of these turn red and get ripe, I'm going to be making one. However, a few days ago, when I had some tomatoes that we pulled from the garden that in that moment, you know, they were on the cusp. They're ripe, but they were going to start to go soft. It was like literally on that cusp. I sliced them and I put them in the freezer on my freeze dryer trays. The thought is maybe I can be able to make a tomato pie this winter. I don't know. It's funny enough because last night I saw Meg from Holler Homestead start to dehydrate some tomato slices for the same thought process, which I thought, the three of us are all kind of on the same wavelength right now with these tomatoes and the tomato pie. So I am going to freeze dry my tomato slices. I have 3 trays pre-frozen, all ready to go. And on that last tray, I'm going to get some elderberries in. I've never freeze dried elderberries. I've only ever dehydrated them in my Excalibur dehydrator. But I pulled 1 or 2 bunches the other day. They're already in the freezer. I'm just going to get the berries off onto the tray, and then we're going to run the freeze dry. Okay, I'm gonna go put this as well as the tomato slices in the freeze dryer. Y'all, remember how I told you yesterday Marley jumps on the counter? He doesn't jump up, his front paws come up. He just came up to try to get one of the elderberry bunches. Glad I got it. Aren't they pretty? They are going to make the most beautiful tomato pie if this works. All right, time to start the second project of the day for the Every Bit Counts challenge, and that is going to be fermented carrots. So just like the fermented pickles with the cucumbers, it's the same exact process. It is so easy and it's so delicious. My family I love them both, the carrots and the pickles, but my family probably loves the fermented carrots even better. They're just a really good snack. They maintain their crunch. Sometimes people get all kind of weirded out by the pickle may not maintain its crispness as it would normally, right? You don't have that problem with the carrot. They will soften a bit, but they still have a great crunch. I'm gonna do 2 pints today. 1 pint I'm gonna do just as I would normally do the cucumbers as pickles. The other one I'm gonna do a little bit more of a Thai kind of flair, and that's gonna have garlic, ginger, Kaffir, lime leaves, these are dried leaves, and galangal root, which is similar to ginger. I think it might be in the same family, but it has an amazing flavor. If you like Thai food, then you've had these types of flavors before, and so I'm gonna do 1 of the pint in the kind of Thai twist. Super simple, super easy. I already have my garlic peeled, my ginger peeled, and my carrots cut. So I'm basically gonna add 1.5 cloves of garlic to each. My ginger, I peeled it and then I just sliced it. So I'm gonna throw that in one of them. The dill seed is gonna go in the dill one. Maybe about a teaspoon. I'm gonna do a little bit of the crushed red pepper on both. I usually put in the seasoning, whatever kind of seasoning, herb, spices I'm using. I usually try to put it in on the bottom of the jar. And that helps, right? Because when you're packing your cucumbers or your carrots in really tight, it really actually helps prevent a lot of this from coming to the top. I'm going to take out a piece of my dried galangal root. Two small pieces. I'm going to do 3 leaves of the Kaffir lime leaf. You want to make sure you're cutting the length of your carrots so that they will fit below the lip of the jar. Now when I'm doing carrots, I don't always put a fermentation glass weight in because they're packed so tightly. Very rarely are they, is anything floating to the top. Certainly not the carrots, maybe some of the spices. But you just want to make sure everything is below the lid, especially if you plan on using a weight. Make sure you accommodate for the size of the weight too. All right, our 2 pints are ready to be filled with our salt water. Of course, I'm using Redmond real salt. All right, I'm gonna do 1 teaspoon. I actually think that's gonna be plenty. 1 teaspoon per pint. So with the airlock system, you can actually use the lids kind of as lids. If you close the rubber gasket, put the lid on, shake it to make sure that salt gets dissolved, and then you can actually get the airlock on. Okay, so these will go on the counter. I usually let my ferments go from anywhere to 7 to 10 days, depending on what it is. These will probably go about 7 days. Then I'll put a regular lid on and put them in the fridge. Okay, let's get started on the 3rd project for the day. It is 7 o'clock at night, so I'm gonna try to do this fairly quickly. I am going to be taking some of our leftover pumpkin puree that was in the freezer, as well as some of our sourdough discard, and we are going to make some sourdough discard pumpkin cinnamon rolls that we're going to let the dough ferment overnight. Tomorrow morning we're going to add a couple more ingredients, roll it out, put the filling in, roll it up, And then we're gonna freeze it. We're gonna slice it, put it into some pans and freeze it. So come Thanksgiving morning, Christmas morning, a random Sunday morning, I can have some wonderfully delicious fresh pumpkin sourdough cinnamon rolls. Now I'd have to take them out the night before and thaw them in the fridge and then cook them the next morning, but all the work will be done. So we're gonna do this very fast. So what I'm using is Little Spoon Farms recipe. I will link it down below, but basically I am doubling the recipe, but I'm going to do it twice. So each recipe is 2.5 cups of flour. That is cut in with 1/3 cup butter. Once that's all incorporated, and we are going to mix in 1/2 cup of our sourdough, discard 1/2 cup of pumpkin puree, and 2 tablespoons of honey. So I'm gonna start by getting my butter cut in here. So I've got my butter, 1/3 cup butter. I'm throwing that in the food processor. You can easily do this by hand with a pastry cutter, but when I'm in a pinch, this works fast. You know that the butter is really cut in well when your flour almost feels like a sand and looks like a sand texture. That means the flour or the butter has been pulverized into tiny pieces to mix in with the flour. This is exactly what you would do for a pie crust also. I'm going to add in 1/2 cup of milk. Half of a cup of my pumpkin puree, 2 tablespoons honey, and 125 grams of our discard. And we're gonna blend this back up. This button right here. Perfect, thank you. All right, and it should come together really easily in a ball. And we are going to put that in a bowl and cover it and let it ferment overnight. I'm gonna do the same thing with the second batch. 2.5 cups flour, 1/3 cup butter, get that incorporated, and then put in your honey, discard, milk, pumpkin puree, and then on. Okay, so you're gonna let them sit overnight on the counter. Tomorrow morning, we are going to add salt, baking powder, baking soda into the dough. You don't want to do that the night before. And then we will roll everything out, make our filling with our sugar, our pumpkin pie spice, roll it up and make our cinnamon buns, but not bake them. That wraps it up for today. Stay healthy, stay well, and I will see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.